In this video, we're going to add the follower guide, the follower assembly, and a cam into our automata design, and then uh, add the correct constraints so that we can turn the handle and watch the motion on our automata. So the first step is going to be to add the follower guide, and so I'll insert that into the current design. And for this one, we want to use a rigid so that it can't rotate, it can't move up and down. Unlike the axle bushing where we wanted to make sure that it was able to revolve, we don't want this one to twist. So we're going to choose rigid. And so if we choose rigid and we choose, you have to have a point. So if we choose this circle, it'll choose the center of that point and the plane that the circle's in. And then this one goes in the center hole here. So we'll come up, choose that circle, and it will place it so that the have to have the same center and the same plane. This is sticking up the wrong direction, so we'll just click flip, and that'll turn it so that it's going down the other direction. Click OK, and now you can see that this is not able to move up and down. It can't rotate. It's fixed in that location. The next thing to do is to add the pair cam. And so I'll insert that into the design. And I'm going to rotate this one so that it's in the correct orientation and kind of move it up here. Now this one, it does make it a little harder to see some of the things you want to click on if the box assembly is here. So I'm just going to turn that off by clicking the light bulb. And so the box assembly, it's still there. It's just invisible for a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is line up the face here with the face inside my follower guide to make sure that they are going to stay lined up with each other. So for that one, I'm going to choose a planar. And so I'm going to choose that plane and then turn it around and choose that plane. You can see that the only motion right now is that but it can't move. When it looks like it's moving in this direction, what it's actually doing is or moving up and down. So when I go like this and it looks like I moved it away, what it really did was move up. If I go like this and it looks like it's moving closer, really what I did was I moved it. It's still in that plane, it's just much lower. So that's the first step, is to add a planar constraint so that this thing cannot twist around the screen. And then the next thing I want to do is make it so that it will stay in the correct orientation on the axle. So I'm going to add 2 more planar joints for this. So the first one that I want to add, and the follower guide is in the way, so I want that plane to stay with the plane that matches it right here. Right, and now you can see that it's got to move up and down, but if I try to move it forward and back, it's got to rotate things around to be able to move forward and back, but it can move up and down. So the next thing we want to do is lock it up so that it can't move up and down off the axle. So I'm going to capture that position, add a new joint, and for this one, I'm going to say that the center of this plane has to stay lined up with the center of that plane. There's already a joint between them. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. And it slides it into place. It says based on just this constraint, it'd be able to rotate in that direction, but the other constraint I have prevents that. So I can click OK now, and now those are locked together. If I turn the crank, the only motion that can happen on that cam is that it can stay, that it can rotate on the axle. It can't slide backwards, it can't move up and down, it can only rotate. So I'll turn the other components back on. And we can see is inside the box rotating, and it's a follower guide. All right, so the next step is to add the follower. So we'll add that follower assembly. I've already put those three together because those are going to be stay rigidly locked together. And I'm going to insert that into the current design. And click OK so that it inserts it. And there you can see it. It's in the correct orientation. We want to make sure that the roller is round in this direction. And I'm going to save this because I haven't saved since I added both of those components. So the first thing I want to do is put it so that this follower slides inside the follower guide. For that one, I'm going to choose joint, and I'm going to capture this position so it stays right there. And for this one, because it can slide, I'm going to add a slider. And now it wants to know the components. And we also want to click those planes that are going to slide against each other. So if I zoom in on the follower and I choose that part of the follower, I'm going to rotate this around so I can get the plane. That would be this plane. And I'll choose right in the center of that one. And it's sliding, but that was the wrong direction. In here we can change which direction. So we'll play with those. The z-axis didn't work. Let's try the x-axis. That one is also not correct. If we try the y direction, that shows us the follower able to slide in there. And so we'll click OK. That's the correct motion that we want. And so now you can see that the follower is inside here, but it's also interfering with and able to go in and out of the cam. So what we're going to do now is go into Assemble, and we're going to first enable contact sets. We'll enable all contact. And if we have all contact enabled, then when this tries to come down, it will bump into it and it will prevent it. If you try to go up, it'll prevent it. Sometimes it'll let you go into it, but it slows way down as it's trying to solve things. And you can see if I rotate the pair cam, it'll push it up. If I push down here, it will push it down until it can't figure out how to solve that mathematically. And so then there's just one other thing that we need to do. We need to make it so that this wants to be lower. And so the way we're going to do that, that slider was our last constraint, right? And what we're going to do is right click on it down here and click Edit Joint Limits. And we're going to give it a rest. If we give it a rest position of 0, then it will try to get to 0 if we let go of things. So if I try to rotate this, it will try to get the follower down to 0. 0 is quite a bit lower here, so it's trying to put it down there. If I rotate it up and then I continue around, it will come down as low as it can without bumping into anything. If I do actually grab the follower, it'll let me put it there, but as soon as I try to move something else, it'll try to move the follower down to its rest position. So there we can see as I turn the crank, my snowman moves up at that one point where the pair cam has a different radius, and it'll move up and then back down again, depending on how I rotate this.